Hi everybody, welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A, where I, Mark, a former scuba diving instructor, do my very best to answer your scuba diving questions. So if you do have any scuba diving questions, pop them down in the comments section underneath this video, and if you use the Ask Mark hashtag in your comment, you get yourself and your question featured in an up and coming video. But I do type out an answer in the comment section in the meantime, so you do get an answer within a day or two. You don't have to wait for the entire video to come out. Today I'm answering a question from Mike Davies about DSMBs and lift bags. So Mike says, I have a Hollis DSMB, the one that comes with its own carry case you can attach to a BCD. If I remember correctly, it has a lift bag rating as well. Are there many DSMBs that can have that dual purpose? So the difference between a lift bag and a DSMB, a delayed surface marker buoy, really comes down with how well you can control its buoyancy as you ascend and the overall just load capacity, or really how strong the stitching and the material itself is. The last thing that you want to do is to be lifting something heavy and then the lift bag rips and then it plummets down, or the flip side, you get a runaway ascent because you can't dump any expanding gas. So I think I know the buoy that you're talking about, and I actually have one. As you say, yeah, it's a fairly hefty buoy, which means that it does have quite a large lift capacity. So the more gas that you can fit into it, basically you're displacing more water, so you're making things more buoyant. But would I use it as a lift bag? No. I mean, in an emergency, sure. If I had this on me and I needed to lift it up, the downside comes is that you attach it onto whatever it is, your buried treasure that you just found, and then you put a bit of gas into the buoy, either through the open end or through the little nozzle, and then all of the gas is going to rush right up to the top, and it's going to be up at the top. As you ascend with it to lift it up, the gas inside there is going to be expanding. So it's going to become more buoyant, and when it's like happening inside of your BCD, as you ascend, you empty the BCD, you dump some gas. It's the same with your dry suit. The dry suit vent goes, and with a lot of lift bags, they'll have a dump valve right up at the top, so that you can pull a piece of string and you can vent a little bit of gas to keep it neutrally buoyant. Otherwise, it's just going to become more and more buoyant, and it's just going to shoot up to the surface. With the DSMB, and pretty much all DSMBs, that valve is down at the bottom. So it's only for when it's completely full and to save the DSMB from exploding, basically, from that expanding gas. Because if it keeps going up, by the time it reaches the surface, your DSMB is just going to explode. So you have an overpressure valve to be able to allow it to vent that expanding gas. Does have pretty hefty webbing straps at the bottom, and you could use that as an attachment point, but it's not a common thing to have like a DSMB lift bag. It's more the other way around. You have a lift bag that, yeah, you can use it as a DSMB. Lift bags are typically like blob shaped, just to spread the strain, the downward strain for whatever you're attaching it to. And some divers do carry lift bags instead of DSMBs, because then it is dual function. You can send up your lift bag, but when it's on the surface, whereas a DSMB is going to stand up really high out of the water and stand over the waves, a lift bag is just going to be this little dome, which, unless you're right on top of it or the water is quite calm, you might not notice. So yeah, it is best to keep DSMBs for telling the surface where you are, to either keep boats away from you or to ask your boat to come pick you up, and then have your lift bags for lifting stuff. So no, I don't think there's a huge amount of DSMBs that you can use as official lift bags. In a pinch, yeah, definitely. You can use it to, if your BCD is ruptured or whatever and you can't control your buoyancy, lift bag. Sort of attach it to yourself in some way and just make it so that you can at least get positive buoyancy without having to ditch your lead weights. In an emergency, yeah, you can use a DSMB, but yeah, they're not really built for load capacity. It's more for, yeah, sending messages up to the surface, and that's about it. I'd be worrying about, yeah, the stitching on sort of this sort of area, and the overall like design of the buoy, just to make sure that it can handle the actual weight, because you've got all of that positive buoyancy pulling up and all that negative buoyancy of whatever it is that you found underwater that you've attached it to. And if you put too much strain, eventually it's just going to rip, and you don't want to be underneath whatever you're trying to lift. But yeah, short answer, I don't think there's a lot of DSMBs that have like lift bag status or anything. It's just in a pinch, yeah, you could use it as a lift bag. Yeah, ideally with a lift bag, I want a purge valve at the top so that I can vent it as it's ascending. I do have, yeah, one in there, and it is literally just an upturned, it's just an open end, and that's it. So you put gas in the bottom, and then when it expands, it just expands and it just goes up to the surface. So it's a bit unpredictable once you reach a certain amount. When you're lifting an item, ideally you want to do it as neutrally buoyant as possible so that it doesn't rush away from you. You want to be able to control the gas that goes in and comes out, and that's where like a nice purge valve at the top. You get them on, I think the Mars XR buoy is the like best visual example for it, in that you have the valve right at the top, you get the little pull string that runs down the body so that you can be near it and you can adjust it, and yeah, it just allows you to control the buoyancy as it's ascending, and you don't get that runaway ascent. And the overall construction is a lift bag. It's designed for lifting equipment. I mean, I'll show you some pictures of my lift bag. It's quite old, it's done a few seasons, but it's built for lifting stuff, so it's very strong materials. The stitching as well is reinforced, whereas on a DSMB it's not really built for that kind of load capacity. It's not really what they're designed for. It'll do it in a pinch, but I wouldn't rely on it too much. Now, if you have any scuba diving questions, by all means pop them down in the comment section underneath this video, and use the AskMark hashtag, and that way it filters it to one side behind the scenes so that I can see it, answer it, and then answer it on video. And of course, remember to head over to our website, scubadivingmag.com. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.